McGregor comes out, and it's just like the energy like changes. It's just like like that it probably was what it was to see like Tyson before, you know, his troubles. I mean, it's just like it's just a guy that is the same thing with Chappelle. It's like a guy that just like can like fill a room with his energy, and it just felt like holy shit. Like seeing him walk out. And even Comey was like that too, where it was just like, and his song, you know, he does the James Brown song, which is like I think one of the best intro songs. And that was, and the excitement before the fight, and then Buffer's doing his thing, and that was like so fun to be experienced with. And then it starts, and it's just like, fuck yeah. And you know, what was a 5-minute fight, if that?
Yeah, because they just finished the first period and first round.
Yeah,
and they called it due to a doctor's stoppage. So when McGregor went down, could you guys tell from where you were?
No, I thought
what happened.
Well, before that, like it felt very even, you know. Like, and there was that time when McGregor had him in like hit
him in the headlock on the ground.
Yeah, and then he was like his like legs were way up high.
Yeah, it looked like Poirier's toes gripped the cage.
I thought he was gonna like break his fucking neck. He was like, I was like, and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna go up. Of course, like the girl I brought was just like, she was trying to start a chant saying like kiss. She was like, kiss, 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 and of course nobody was. And then she's like, come on, make out, and like nobody was doing it. So like I was like, this is gonna be a good fight. I was like, this will go I was hoping it would go the distance, or at least a few rounds. And I had money on McGregor. Did you bet on it?
I did not, but I was at a wedding and a few of my cousins did, so we snuck off to watch the fight.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, though, because we all kind of scored at 10-9 for Poirier, but I guess the judges, there was 2 10-8s and 1 10-9. I think the reason it became 10-8, as the judges score it, they didn't realize that McGregor went to – because when McGregor first went to the ground, because he snapped his fucking leg. It was, I don't know if you've seen the replay. It's so gross.
Yeah.
Like if you're watching this, everyone, and listening, don't even look it up if you're queasy. If you're queasy, you're gonna be like, ugh, you know? But when he first went down, I remember someone like, oh, did Poirier hit him? How did he fall? I'm like, no, he just went down. And then we saw the replay, and I'm like, I think he fucked up his ankle or his leg.
Yeah.
But then, you know, when he was on the ground those last 8 seconds, he just had to cover up. He had no choice.
Right.
And then he was saved by the bell, essentially. Because it was the closing seconds of the round. I feel like that maybe made it where it was like 10-8. But before that, I gave Poirier a slight advantage because he had a little bit more with the ground and pound.
Yeah.
Standing up, I gave McGregor the edge.
Yeah.
Poirier got a couple nice shots in there, and he checked some kicks pretty solidly. But that's the one thing, you know, and I know it's because a lot of people hate McGregor, and McGregor's an easy guy to hate. I totally get that. But if you're just going, I'm a big fan of his too. He's exciting. I wish he would have handled himself a little bit better lately with some stuff, though, of course. Don't get me wrong. But it is one of those things where with if you have someone who has no stake in it and you ask them to watch this, and then, you know, afterwards you say, hey, those two guys seem pretty evenly matched, right? The average person on the street would be like, oh, yeah, those guys seem pretty evenly matched. I mean, the one guy was up a little bit, but I could definitely see them running that back.
Yeah.
Some people who hate him are just like, what's the point of running it back? He's just going to get destroyed again. I'm like, destroyed? What were you watching? I didn't see anything in my head where I'm like, he does not belong. Whereas in the first 2 rounds with Khabib, I remember thinking, oh, McGregor, this is a complete mismatch. McGregor doesn't belong in the octagon with him right now. And that was when he was really rusty. He was off that 2-year layoff where he just fought Floyd in between. That was the only action he had.
Yeah.
So I'm sure and McGregor draws a huge crowd. So when McGregor's fans like just absolutely livid, were they pissed?
I mean, like people surprisingly the crowd wasn't like uneasy. Like, you know, watching it. You still there, Joe? Yeah. Okay.
I'm very stoic when I listen.
I see that. The angle that where we were sitting, the angle, you couldn't see why he went down, right? It like, so I was like, oh, maybe we missed a punch, whatever. And then they stopped the fight, and then everybody around us was just kind of confused on what just happened because it didn't. I mean, he was being pounded on, but it didn't seem like he couldn't like defend himself or anything. And then they show the replay on the big screen, and then like our whole group was just like, whoa, like instantly. And then they kept replaying it, and then you know.
Could you guys hear McGregor talking? Well, could you guys hear the Rogan interview with McGregor?
No, because you know it's so Irish. You know, it's like watching a Guy Ritchie film. Where you have to like kind of like get used to it for a little bit. You know? like Peaky Blinders, where you're just like,
my wife was in me DMs.
Yeah.
Maybe the after party. I can't really do the McGregor's accent too. I could do an Irish accent, but I can't do that McGregor Dublin where he's like,
fuck you.
You'll do fucking nothing. Like, I can't. You do nothing.
I loved him laying on the ground, like helpless, being like, fuck you, you're fucking wasting my DMs.
Still talking shit. Still selling the rematch. We'll do it again. You didn't knock me out. A doctor ended this shit. Like all that. I think what it was, and I've heard some opinions from other people, and there is a case. I know people who don't like McGregor goes, it sounds like excuses, but they're usually when the leg breaks like that, there are stress fractures or hairline fractures before it.
Didn't they show the film where he kicks and he hit the elbow?
That's where he believed it happened. At first,
then he went down after. Yeah.
And then he went to throw a punch that he just missed with, and then when he stepped back, it completely went away. But the thing is, they were taping up that ankle a lot during his training, and I could give credit to. Did Andrew Schultz tweet this, or did someone tweeted it? A comedian tweeted it, where they were saying that you get a break like that often because the bone goes to shit from overtraining. So that's where I could see a lot of the McGregor anger coming from, being like, I trained my fucking ass off for this. I'm gonna lose by breaking my own fucking leg. It's not because you knocked me out, not because you made me tackle, because I broke my damn leg. And at the end of a round that was a competitive round, it was competitive. Even if you want to score 10-9 Poirier or 10-8 Poirier, 10-8 implies that it wasn't competitive. No, it was a competitive round, as I was saying.
Right.
That's going to definitely piss you the fuck off. And Poirier, McGregor ran his mouth a little bit because I feel like he thought he was too civil with Poirier going into the rematch back in January. He's like, I was too friendly with him. I'm letting my guard down. I got to go back to the old me. I'm going to talk all this shit. But you cross the line when you talk about someone's wife. Poirier seemed mad when he said he's going to kill me. You don't talk about killing a man. I think that's more of an expression, like I'm going to fucking kill you. I don't. He's not bringing a gun to the fucking octagon. Like he didn't mean he was actually going to murder you.
Right.
That's just slang talk at that point. Poirier seems like a good dude, but I definitely see, and it happened after the Khabib McGregor fight. McGregor has a way of bringing out the worst in his opponent. They beat him, and I think they're so happy they beat him. Like I just shut you up, but then they go in a kind of I didn't like Poirier doing the McGregor walk while McGregor was on the ground.
The crowd went crazy when that happened for sure. Yeah, he's like McGregor's kind of like that, like toxic relationship where you're just like, how did you bring that out of me? Like I'm not that person, and I don't know, but like the energy behind all that, it's one of those things where like, obviously I wish that didn't happen, but the energy, it was definitely worth the experience, and also it's like one of those fights where you're like, remember when he broke his ankle? You're like, I was there,
you'll forever be there because again, McGregor's such a storied career because who knows what's really going to happen. He's already posting on Instagram and tweeting saying he's going to be back. He had a video on Instagram today where it showed him like wheeling around. He's in like a little wheelchair with his leg up. I think he's in Beverly Hills because the street look, I'm like, I know that street. And because he's staying in LA, because that's where the doctors and where they had the surgery. But it's going to be at least probably a year at the earliest he gets back in.
I mean, just a sprain takes months, like 4 months to get over, like this is like a fucking break. I know that was a nasty break too. The type of break where you need surgery. I broke my leg. I didn't need surgery. They reset it where they kind of had to like set it to hurt like a motherfucker. They gave me morphine though. That stuff's all right. But I didn't need surgery, thankfully. Whenever it's a break where you need surgery, who knows if he'll ever come back the same. He seems determined to come back. Some people speculate he must have a deal with because he sold a huge stake of that Proper 12 for like a few $100 million. I think have you had Proper 12?
As a shot, I think it's terrible. I had it with Joe McMahon.
Okay.
On an episode of this, like when it first came out, I think I bought a bottle of it,
Okay.
And we were like, all right, let's do a shot. We did a shot and we all looked at each other like, oh, that's like gas. That's just not a good shot. Then he had a 2-liter of Coke. So then we just started doing Proper 12 and Coke. And I said later, I'm like, I think it's pretty good with Coke because we knocked that bottle out pretty quickly. We drank the whole damn thing. Joe McMahon ended up puking at the end of the podcast. Only episode of Kilgallon's Pub where a guest had to puke.
Okay.
Everyone, for a little backstory, this is a Joe Kilgallon podcast now. I used to call it Kilgallon's Pub because I would drink and often get drunk with my guests.
Yeah.
And then I realized I have to change the name because I'm not going to be 50 getting drunk with people in the afternoon.
I've blacked out during 2-year podcasts.
And that was just as a listener, as a guest.
As
No,
a
I'm kidding.
listener, yeah. No, the St. Patty's Day, I blacked out
Oh
the first
yeah.
time, and I blacked out the second time. And so we did so like another bucket list for us that we kind of decided was like we've never drank at the bar at Wild Forest. What is it? What's it called? God damn it!
Rainforest Cafe.
Thank you, Rainforest Cafe. And we're like walking past to go somewhere, and there's a Rainforest Cafe, and there's actually a bar because most Rainforest Cafes they don't have a bar. Like the bartender's in back, and for some reason, of course, in Las Vegas there is one there. And then we took, and then the guy was like, "Do you want to do a shot for the, for the fight?" And we're like, "Let's do it." And we did proper 12, and I took it down, and then she took it down, and we just looked at each other and was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever had in my life." And I love Malort, which if people aren't listening, it's like the worst.
Very Chicago.
Very Chicago. Like they are notorious for tasting terrible.
It's really bad. I don't know. I might want to do a shot of proper. I just have no taste for Malort at all.
Really?
So many Chicago comedians love it. And I think you guys started it as a gag, and now you genuinely acquired a taste for it.
Yeah,
which would probably happen with proper 12 if you drink it as much as Malort.
Yes, that's true.
I could believe that. I'm going to buy another bottle, and we'll mix it with Coke next time, and we'll see what you think. But part of me thinks, because I remember when it came out, people being like, why didn't they make it better? He's got such a big name. I go, maybe that's part of it. Maybe they made it so cheap that the markup of it's so high.
Oh, for sure.
It did sell. It made $1 billion in sales or whatever. I remember Dana White talking about it when they were trying to see if a Khabib fight would happen. Because remember, he won. He became the first ever guy to hold 2 belts at the same time in the UFC when he beat Eddie Alvarez at the end of 2016. That was November. Conor McGregor still, though. Look, I'm not putting him in any kind of. He's probably not. Maybe he's a top 20 UFC fighter of all time. Where I rank him, though, is that run. His prime might have been the best prime anyone's had because the way he went about beating, I think it was Poirier, and then someone who wasn't that good in between, and then Mendez, and then Aldo. The Aldo fight being like one of the most hyped fights, one of the biggest fights in UFC at the time, and he starched him. 12 seconds, 13 seconds.
Yeah.
Then, so he wins the 145. He was going to face, what's that one guy? I forget his name now. Dos Santos. And he gets pulled with an injury. They bring in Diaz, who was a pretty popular guy, but, I think he had like a 10-5 record. He wasn't like, or 15-10. He wasn't a guy that was like up for a belt at the time, but people liked his personality. Loses to him, even though they fought at 170 and he previously fought at 145. You give Diaz credit too, because he took that fight like on 12 days notice or whatever. Comes back, beats Diaz, learned from some mistakes, didn't mess around with the ground because he knows that was his weakness, but still had that punch because he put Diaz on the ground like 3 times with the punch. Wins that in a decision. Then comes back a few months after that, beats Alvarez. So McGregor from 2014 to 2016 and even through 2017, because losing to Mayweather was really a victory. Just getting that fight was a fucking victory.
Yeah.
I told people,
as long as he lasted. Yeah, and he lasted as long. 10
rounds, yeah.
That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. So I'm like, from 2014 to 2017, Conor McGregor's run, that being like his prime of being like on top of the world, was unbelievable. Yeah. And to the likes of which I don't know if we'll ever see again in terms of wins and popularity. Because there'll be people who go on win streaks like that. Like Khabib obviously never lost. But even he had like a year off where he missed weight a couple times. So he never really had that pure dominance of being like thought of as the top dog. There's people who have, defended titles longer and all that stuff, but to be the combination of winning belts and being the huge name that he was,
right? I
don't know if you'll see that matchup again or that.
And the business sense to transfer that into dollars is like crazy. Like the money grabs he does is insane. Like he made what, 400 million from Proper 12?
I think they sold 600 for like 600 million.
Right.
And he got, I think, a couple $100 million from that. Some people think he needs to keep fighting for X amount of years to keep the brand high as part of that deal.
Okay.
That's a rumor I'd been floated of.
Yeah.
But then I also heard a rumor where someone's like, at any given moment, if McGregor, as he's rehabbing this leg back, decides, say he gets into camp and he starts messing around and he realizes I'm not the guy I was and I can't fight with one good leg.
Right.
It's, it doesn't make sense for me. I've got a couple $100 million in the bank. I got a beautiful family. I'm rich beyond my wildest imagination. That was a really cool thing too. A reporter asked him, like when they did like a Thursday press conference, I believe, they said, here's a quote from you from 2012 or 2013, before he was even joining the UFC. He goes, I want to fight in the UFC. First goal. I want to have a belt wrapped around my waist. I want to have so much money that my kids don't have to worry about money.
Yeah.
I want my girlfriend to have a car for each day of the week. And I want to dominate the sports and business world. Like he said all this.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Did
and
you
I know
see
a lot of people take joy in his fall from grace, but it's like that motherfucker already won.
I know. Did you see Notorious? His documentary?
I thought it was a good documentary.
Yeah, I just also watching how much he struggled and how hard he worked. I mean, he's like the hardest working guy in.
He really was.
The hardest. He was one of the hardest. Yeah.
He was so active up until after the Mayweather fight. Before the Mayweather fight, he was the most active guy on the roster. Because there were times where they'd be like, "What do you think about fighting this guy, fighting that guy, fighting this guy?" And his whole thing was like, "That guy needs to show me more." What's he fought once in the last 2 years? He goes, "I want to fight workers." Like that's how he was, and that's where I think a lot of his frustrations and the poor decisions, outside the octagon, has happened because he's a dude that's such a worker that when he's not working, he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Right.
He came back. So in November of 2016, I only know this fresh off my head because I was reading it earlier today. November 2016, beats Eddie Alvarez to become the first 2 weight class champ, gets the 155 belt to go along with the 145. Then he announces after that fight, well, my wife's due with our first kid, or not my wife, my girlfriend is due with our first kid coming up. So I'm going to take some time off. I promised her, because she gets real stressed out when I fight. I don't want stress while she's pregnant. And everyone gladly accepted that. Cool. The only people who didn't were like Conor haters, because I'm like, this dude is more active than anyone. He's taking a break for family after this crazy run. He was averaging 3 fights a year for 4 years in a row. No one else did that.
No.
And so I was like, all right, he totally earned that. Then the Mayweather fight comes to fruition. He's not going to, of course, he's going to take $100 million payday.
Yeah.
Right. So, he does that. Takes a little break after that because then he launches Proper 12 right after the Mayweather fight. And he launched the fashion line, which I heard the fashion line's doing really well too. It's called McGregor.
Yeah. I think I bought something from there.
Well, the one, because you remember he wore the suit with the "fuck you" pinstripes.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
they made, and that's a shirt. I remember I was at some bar in downtown Chicago before the pandemic, and someone was wearing that shirt.
Yeah,
and I was kind of like, that's a little funny. Anyway, so
I think he
comes back in 2018 after nearly a 2-year layoff to fight Khabib, who's one of the baddest motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's a complete style mismatch for Conor, a dude who had been really active up until that point, and. I remember thinking to myself, like, man, you think he'd want a tune-up fight? Why would you go that long to fight that guy? But that's where he's at now. He can't do tune-up fights. No. A lot of people are like, McGregor needs to work his way back up. And I'm sure in his heart he might know that, but not when you're making that much money. The UFC won't even let him. He wanted to fight Justin Gaethje during the middle, he beat before 2020. He said, my being inactive is what's killed me. Because again, it was October 2018. He fought Khabib. He doesn't fight Cowboy until January 2020, beats him in 40 seconds, which we kind of thought that was going to happen. And then he's like, I want to fight 3 times in 2020. Pandemic happens. He even said, let me go to Fight Island. Dana White said, dude, I'm not having you fight for 0 audience.
Right.
You're my biggest gate.
Yeah.
I know this pisses you off and you're angry, but think about it. You sell out arenas. I'm not going to have you fight where my only revenue is the pay-per-view dollars.
Right.
It'd be dumb on my end.
Yeah.
Because I know they jack up the prices a little bit more for Conor fights as far as ticket sales go too. So I get that from the business standpoint, but I also get it from his frustration standpoint. He probably liked the way he was when he fought Cowboy. He had a respect for Cowboy. He thought to himself, I don't need to talk shit about this guy. I respect this guy. I'm sure he respected Dustin, which is why when him and Dustin had the rematch earlier this year, he thought, I don't need to run my mouth against Dustin. Right. And I think he liked being that guy. He's probably thinking, I've got kids now. I'm getting a little older. Pumping myself up by talking shit, was selling fights before, but I don't need to do that to sell fights anymore. So I'm not going to do that. Then he lost. And after that loss, remember when Joe Rogan was talking to him in the octagon, he was kind of like, I don't know how to feel. And some people were like, maybe McGregor's done. Maybe he's really lost that spark, which I think he thought he did. And then he's like, oh, I got to turn this around. So then he went back to the shit talking. Yeah. Which, probably made Dustin be like, fuck you, dude.
You could see the intensity. I mean, I'm sure on television it read better, but like just even in the audience, you could feel like, oh, fuck, he's not fucking around whatsoever. He is like into this, the fight on last week. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what though?
I think like laser focused.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, I didn't finish my my main point of that last little.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Joe. Excuse me.
No, you didn't interrupt. No, you didn't interrupt. I got sidetracked. Jonah, baby.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
I got sidetracked.
Hey, Jonah, baby.
I was gonna say that
Hans,
if it is
Bubby.
If it was one of those things where he needs to keep fighting as part of any kind of deals he has to keep Proper 12 relevant, he could, if he called Vince McMahon tomorrow and said, hey, when this leg heals, I want to be at WrestleMania, Vince McMahon would be like, I will send over the paperwork right now. They would love him.
Oh my God. Like if he can't, if this injury is career ending for him, he has a 2-3 year run in WWE, probably make like $30 million. And like easy breezy 3 fights, it's like Ronda Rousey did, like, just fight a little bit, get a good payday, and then just become
even more popular because Connor's better on the mic than she ever was.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's all sorts of wrestling angles that write themselves too, because Becky Lynch is still wrestling, right?
Yeah.
She's from Ireland.
So. Yeah.
Sheamus is from Ireland. What's his name? Baylor? What's his name?
Yeah, Finn
Balor. He's from Ireland.
Yeah.
So right there, you could have a little bit of like, here's a new Irish stable. We're taking. Yeah. Conor famously said when he was working his way up to the UFC or working his way up the UFC ranks that he goes, "We're not here to take part. We're here to take over." I could see him busting that line out and having like a stable of Irish wrestlers, or even him rival or fighting some of them. Who knows? He'll have to keep the swearing in check slightly, but I'm sure they'll happily bleep him because he's Conor fucking McGregor.
Dude, seeing him walk out with that fucking suit on, with the glasses on, there's like a little whatever underbite he does when he's all like talking shit or whatever he does.
Yeah,
just like with that mic, like the crowd would lose their fucking shit.
Those press conferences he had with Floyd were unbelievable events.
Unbelievable,
hilarious. Yeah. And it'd be just like that. They'd probably get The Rock back out of retirement to fight him.
Oh, for sure. McGregor and he's like a little guy. Rock. Yeah. And he's like a smaller guy.
Going to movies. Or he can commentate. His future is set. It's not like if he stops fighting, all of a sudden he's just going to fade into nothingness. I think he'll find a way to keep himself. He could become a UFC personality. He could start whatever he wants. The guy could start a podcast. The guy could fucking do a lot of different things when you're that magnetic.
Oh, yeah. He's got another 20, 30 years in his career left for sure. Like wherever he wants to take it, he's good. And even if the leg doesn't fully heal to the point where he could be a professional MMA fighter at even a good level still, because a lot of people who are like, oh, he's not a top fighter anymore. And I'm like, why? Because he lost to Khabib and Dustin Poirier. Yeah.
Those are two of the top fighters going. I mean, you could still be a top fighter. No one's saying he's the best anymore, but it's funny because what a brutal sport. You could be the 5th best in your like weight class and people are like, you're done.
Yeah. You're like,
I'm top 5 in the world.
Yeah.
I'm just not as good as those other 4 guys,
Yeah. It's like when people talk shit about like football players, they're like, that guy fucking sucks. He's like, he's the best player. He's one of the best players in the country. Like, what are you gonna go? You're gonna go fucking tackle him? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, he's like, he was the best player on your high school team. Like, he was like next level, or they were like next level. Yeah. He's like, that guy fucking sucks. It's like, all right.
Yeah. And even without a fully functional leg to be again competitive in MMA, it'd still be good enough for him to do pro wrestling.
I know.
He might not be able to do flips off the top rope, but I'm sure he'll still be athletic enough.
Yeah, and they can totally they can work the matches around that for sure. They do that all the time.
Well, he's a great athlete, so if he puts in the work to learn wrestling technique, he could be a very. That's the thing that a lot of people like wrestling. I remember talking about this with our buddy Marty DeRosa after Ronda Rousey made her debut, and he was like, "No, people like her because she actually looks like she put in the work, and she looks good in the ring. So good on her. People appreciate that. Where some celebrities go into the world of pro wrestling." And they're just like, what the fuck, and they don't really take it seriously and they act dickish and they're not into it. If he actually cared enough to, and he might not, maybe he goes, fuck the world of professional wrestling. I'm not into it. But I'm also sure he likes to be an entertainer. So I think he would gravitate well towards it.
For sure. 100%.
That's cool, man. Any other final thoughts about it?
No, it was like, dude, like, I would, if anybody has the opportunity to go see a fight, go see a fight. It was definitely like one of the best experiences I've ever had, for sure.